And welcome, everyone, to Rock M Radio. This is the beginning of a brand new episode of Dive Cuts, and we are live on YouTube for our Rock M Plus subscribers. It's season 8 already. We're here to talk about your Missouri basketball Tigers as the only podcast strictly talking about Mizzou basketball. I am your host, Sam Snelling. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see me on your left. Please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Help this channel grow a little bit. With me on the right there is Mr. Matthew J. Harris, joining us again from the plains of Indiana, enjoying life, going to brunch on weekends and waiting inordinate amounts of time to partake in eggs. Matt, how are you?
I'm well. These are the trade-offs you make. My spouse, my wife, my partner in crime is exceptionally tolerant of this activity.
Ellery is a wonderful, wonderful woman. You are blessed.
And raises no questions when she sees synergy playlists with names that are very questionable. She tolerates it all. She marvels with horror at the spreadsheets. So if the modest tax I pay is going to brunch, where, mind you, there's like the place we went had like an entire other, it's got like an entire other, like kind of side, like kind of like a market, but it has like a bar you can sit at and they give you like all kinds of coffee there. So if you're going to tell me that, Matt, you have to take your spouse to brunch at a not early time, and then like the 40-minute wait is you just sitting there drinking really good coffee, I'm fine with that tax. Because God only knows I have to prepay for when portal season gets here. So it's time. That's already beginning. That's already started.
Yeah.
Coming.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the portal opening is coming and coming fast. We are anticipating not quite the activity of last year, but we are anticipating activity. Well, let's talk about these Tigers. I've actually sitting here still have the second half of the Vanderbilt game on my screen. Those who followed along know that we always kind of do rewatches. I haven't gotten to mine yet. Watching it today,
putting it off.
But let's start with some brighter times, because coming off last weekend's loss of losing at Arkansas, Missouri needed to sort of cleanse the soul a little bit, and they certainly took it out on South Carolina.
Yeah. Don't think that was the fire and brimstone kind of one we wanted. It was, I think I wrote in the lineup kind of review, it was very much like what you would sort of expect from Dennis's overall air that he has on the sideline. It was very dispassionate, sort of like very, very calm, very, very kind of just ho-hum. And I think the one thing, even when you go back and you like look at the run of play type data and you run through and you look at the sheets, is there was no like 16-2 run that blew it open. It was just gradually stretching it. And they had, the ironic thing is like they did have a kind of a kill shot with Caleb Grill coming off the bench, kind of extending the lead. But then other than that, the only other time they really had a big run was after garbage time started with like 11 minutes left in the second half. So it was, I think, what you wanted to see and what we've talked about wanting to see from this team, which is they came out, they took, South Carolina's best effort for 4 or 5 minutes. Mizzou's depth started to show up when they put Grill and Cruz on the floor. And then they really just sort of steadily opened it up. And then after the second half started, they cleaned up some defensive issues. And it was really just, all right, if Colin Murray Boyles wants to eat, I guess that's fine, because nobody else will do anything. So it played out very much like I think I would have expected, which is Colin Murray Boyles was going to do a lot of things. The question was anybody going to come with him? Nobody did. And Missouri's depth eventually kind of prevailed, and they were able to stretch it. And that's what you want to see in those games. Like, you want it to be very matter of fact, very ho-hum. And they got a result. And I think to see it turn around as quickly as it did against Arkansas where I didn't see the same kind of focus and same sort of in-game adjustments and detail-oriented kind of mindset. It was nice to see that on quick turn. Now we'll talk about the Vandy game here in a minute, where that quickly went away. But I thought they did what they needed to do against South Carolina. They got right. They got some diverse scoring. They did what you're supposed to do if you're a top 15 team at home against a team that's at the bottom of your conference. It was what you wanted to see.
Yeah. And we've talked about, like South Carolina and sort of who they are this year. And they have been like really good at home. I mentioned how I was thankful that this game wasn't on their court, because the way that they play
in Arkansas.
Yeah. I mean, like Arkansas, like they have had everybody outside of Alabama on the ropes at home. Alabama was able to kind of put a 20 spot on them, but but everybody else went in there and got threatened and until they got Texas, and then and they beat Texas soundly, and then they turned around and beat Arkansas soundly.
Yeah.
And so South Carolina is not an incompetent team. They're a competent team. They've just been really, really pretty poor on the road. If they were able to play as well as they do at home, even like 80% of the way they're on the road, like they're probably, I don't think they have the talent level to maybe get to 500 in conference, but I think they've probably got
4 or 5 wins.
Yeah. 5 or 6 maybe by the end of the year. Not at this point, but total. But yeah, so you are right in that they didn't have like a single kill shot, but they did go from down 1 to up 16 in a matter of about 6.5 minutes. So that was a 5-0 run, a 6-0 run, and an 8-0 run, with a little 4-point spurt around 3 baskets from South Carolina, and so that was kind of like when things opened up and Missouri got a little comfortable. I don't know that we need to spend a whole lot of time in this game. It was sort of like a good vibes night. It felt good to do what they needed to do. We talked about it before. Like I thought this was a game that they should win by at least 20. They did that. I thought it was pretty funny that our beat writer was predicting a 5-point win. It's just and knowing how South Carolina has been on the road, the likelihood of that game being within 10 to 15 points, especially with Mizzou coming off, coming off the loss of the way that they did, was always going to be pretty low.
Yeah. But hey, if you average the margins from the road loss at Arkansas and the win over South Carolina, he was there. If you take it to net, Quentin got there. Yeah. So results, not process, Sam. Results, not process for Quentin. So that's what he should do, and look at that.
So let's talk Vandy. We've written a lot about it. I wrote a pour over, and normally in the pour over, I mainly kind of talk about a little bit bigger picture, but it's hard to do that when when games come down to such narrow margins, and and realistically, you're in a position that Missouri was in where they should have won. I think of all the games this year, and you and I have talked, I can't remember if we said this on the pod or not, but the games that I would want to play over at this point, I'm actually okay with them losing it at Vanderbilt. I don't like the way that the game ended, because I think that you have a 6-point lead with a minute to go, 4-point lead with 45 seconds. You should win that game. You made your free throws.
4-point lead with 21 seconds to go.
Yeah. So you made your free throws, which is what you're supposed to do, and you still lost. So that's heartbreaking. But like in the grand picture, it doesn't bother me that they lost to Vanderbilt because that was always going to be a really tough game. Vanderbilt's really good.
What did I say last week? I hated that game from the moment I saw it. Hated it. Dreaded it. My worry was borne out.
You maybe feel better if you start with a trip to Vanderbilt and then finish at home. But yeah, at the end of the year, I'm gonna it's gonna bother me that they lost the way that they did, but that they lost isn't gonna bother me as much as the way that what happened at Texas, what happened to Texas A&M. Like those losses are gonna bother me a lot more.
I think I said this is what I would have said to our beat writers is Missouri absolutely hammered Arkansas and Vandy in their first meetings. You're not going to get that in a second meeting. Obviously, you're going to go on the road. Both of those teams are playing better than when Missouri saw them the first time. Both of them now have increasing stakes to get into the NCAA tournament. They need that. There's a sense of urgency for them to get that result. Less so for Vandy.
A lot of people.
Less so for Vandy, but definitely for Arkansas.
But a lot of people would basically say that Vanderbilt beating Missouri locks them into the tournament at this point. And that win was them saying, you're in the tournament, you win this game. Missouri stakes existed, because you're trying to improve your seed, but you're not missing out on
sweating.
If you lose the game. So the stakes were higher for them.
And Mark Byington's a fantastic coach. I think, you only have to look at what he did, what he's done there in terms of building out the first year. You can look at how he's managed some late game situations early in the week at Texas A&M, managed in game perfectly down there. It took 30 minutes to play 3 minutes, but he managed Buzz trying to make that into trench warfare pretty well.
Yeah.
So,
and they were also that Tanner turnover with 5 seconds to go. That would have made things a lot less painful if he was just able to dribble it out instead of trying to kind of hand it off.
Right. But yeah, point is, Vandy was playing well. The stakes for them were you win, you lock a bid. It's the second meeting. They've played exceptionally well at home anyway. There was a lot of variables you looked at coming into this game going, if you get a win and you dig out a win here, I didn't care if it was a 1-point win, you underperform the margin, just get a result. And we can talk about the in-game situation as, you've sort of gone over it. I've gone over it on the forums. In the regulation situation. Yeah. Everybody can you can take it apart. Should they have called timeout, when Mark was trapped on the sideline? Should they have called a timeout to prevent that turnover? Should they have then in that timeout called to foul up 3? The fouling up 3 thing to me, I try not to be, completely all in on it because I think it is circumstantial. I do think you have to look at who your opponent is, what game flow looks like, what personnel looks like. Now, if you believe that you should always foul with under 9 seconds left, fine, whatever. But I think there's some things you can do. They have to account for game situations on the foul up 3. Now, the question that I don't think is debatable is that there was a mistake made defensively at the end of the game. I don't think, and I think, we've been, I think, probably a little harsher than we intended to be in terms of discussing, Trent Pierce's mistake there. But I think the reason why you are a little bit harsh in tone, maybe inadvertently, is because Tyler Nichols' scouting report is relocation shooter. That's what he does. That's his number one thing on the scouting report. It's what he's done at Virginia Tech. It was one of the reasons why Byington went and got him out of the portals, because he can shoot well off movement. He can get to space. That's something that Vandy wants to do as well. They want to get downhill. They want to spray it. And, Missouri had been, I think, trying to take away some stuff on the line during that game as well. Not always effectively, but it had been something they'd been trying to do. And to not execute a scout in that spot and then not see ball man in that spot, that's not a guy out executing you. That's not a guy, making a play over you. That's just a breakdown. And it's one that you've covered from scout to film probably through walkthrough, and to have it happen there. I mean, that it's rough to have that happen, but it's a mistake, and it's a mistake that is not one of Mark Byington being better on the board than Dennis Gates. It's your guy just made a mistake, and one that shouldn't probably have happened. I think the issue we can talk about probably is in overtime, and I think Trent had some issues in overtime as well. I'm more open to talking about the overtime issues because I think that some of the issues in overtime were created by systemic stuff that Missouri was doing. And I think that, we're weirdos and we talk about auto switching a lot, but I think that was a decision that I think Missouri in hindsight would probably regret. And that went beyond Trent was caught up in a decision that was made by a staff to execute that strategy. Trent was executing that in some situations, and that mistake was born, and there were created some compounding issues there. But I think what I'm saying is Trent made a mistake at the end of the game. There's no denying that. It was an egregious one. But there was some systemic stuff, too, that I think hurt them in overtime that I think comes back to kind of what maybe the game plan was going in. And we can talk about that if you want. But I think it's important to sort of talk about what happened at in-game and sort of parse out what was individual kind of mistakes versus what was maybe a result of some scheme stuff towards the end of that game.
Well, I want to Missouri played well enough to win.
Yeah.
They should have won. They didn't win. And they didn't win because of a few errors down the stretch. And Vanderbilt needed all of those errors to happen in order to have a shot. I thought when Missouri secured the offensive rebound on Caleb Grill's shot, which I want to say was like 40 some seconds left.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be it.
Yeah.
And then I think what happened from there is there was legitimate surprise that Vanderbilt didn't immediately foul.
Correct.
Conventional wisdom at this point, if you're behind by multiple possessions, is you want as much time on the clock as possible. You see a guy, the ball gets inbounded, you're going to foul. They didn't. And I really feel like that caused some confusion on Missouri's part.
Four of the guys were standing around.
Well, yeah, and I also think it's very likely at this point that Dennis Gates will think about that segment of the game more than even the end of the game, and think right then I probably should have called the timeout. We can go you see Mark's kind of heading to the sidelines, you try to call a quick timeout, but I think the part where they lost it was as Mark he had the ball, he was kind of dribbling, he was in control. And then Ant brought his defender over. And at that point, it's just and allows Tanner to sort of, to bluff, which is going to push the dribbler back towards the sideline.
Yeah.
But all of these things are only happening because Missouri's wait, you guys aren't fouling us. What's going on? I thought that was, that was a big thing. And I do think that, if you could go back and replay it, for me, that's the point where I would have wanted to call a timeout.
Yeah.
To settle my guys. And then to go over really go over the end of the game stuff, make sure that everybody's on the same page. Look, we have the ball, we're up 4. Be strong with the ball. We don't need to take a shot, but we're going to run our offense, or maybe just get Ant out front with the ball. And
set a late clock pick and roll and see what.
Yeah,
we get,
late clock, pick and roll in the middle of the floor. If they're going to continue to not foul, and then you go from there. But look, that went Vanderbilt's way, and it's just it's one of those things where you just have a sequence of events where they needed everything to go their way and they got it. And it sucks.
Yeah.
And then in the overtime, I felt as soon as they hit that 3 that they were going to seize the momentum in the overtime, and it was going to it flipped.
Yeah.
Basically, it flipped to where Missouri was chasing, and it was too late at that point.
Yeah. I think you can talk about, there were some things in the game going through that I think were issues for them. They Obviously, the rebounding in the first half was not good. That wasn't great. But Vanderbilt couldn't hit a shot.
That was well, and that's another thing. It's just like it's frustrating because they've been, they haven't been always great at rebounding, but they've been pretty solid. And like they were just getting crushed on the glass in like the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, they got crushed in the first 10. Chris Magnon was everywhere all at once and doing everything. So I think, we mentioned at halftime, the concern for Missouri was you knew ball handling was going to be equal in this game because these are both two teams that are good at turning over. So you knew the net possessions via turnover were probably going to be equal. You just couldn't get killed on the glass. You just couldn't give Vandy second possessions. And Missouri was doing a good enough job in the first half, at least at, first shot defense. A lot of the 2-point defense issues they had in the first half were because of stickbacks. And that was letting Vandy juice its 2-point shooting. So it was understandable at halftime to say, okay, if Missouri can just secure rebounds, keep doing a good job in first shot defense, it can see this through. The second half, it sort of flipped to where Missouri just could not keep Vandy out of the paint. They could not stop Vandy once they got there. And to continue the point in overtime, Vandy got very, very good at identifying how to use target Missouri, which was automatic switching with some lineups to target mismatches and get what they wanted and get to the paint and create problems. So I think in the first half it was rebounding. The second half, Missouri was doing enough offensively to stay in front. It just could not get enough stops, to really put the game on ice. Vandy just kept trimming and getting it down. And then I think in the last 2 minutes, Missouri forced turnovers on 3 straight possessions and, seemed to seal it. And then came the minute where they just absolutely fell apart. So there was enough offensively to get them there, but not enough consistency and some facets defensively to really hold up and get the result.
So for those who are with us on YouTube, I just pulled up a clip here because you've now mentioned auto switching, and I'm assuming that a lot of us kind of know what that means, but this is a possession, I think, which really kind of defines what we mean by auto switching. And you can kind of see here, that's a ghost screen, there's a ball screen, and that's an auto switch. So here comes Hogard, and then there's an there's no
switch.
Reason, and
to switch that.
So there's no reason
to switch that because Mark can get through.
Well, yeah. So right here, I understand you're going to switch, okay? And that's the Grill McLaughlin. Mark is capable of guarding with his length, Hogard. This is the one that I don't understand necessarily.
Mark can fight through. There's a gap to fight through there to stay in front.
And then immediately, Hogard takes Pierce, attacks his weak foot and goes right at the rim. So that's what, when we're talking about the auto switching, it's that. And this is a bit of a frustration point for me because, I do think that, especially when Missouri has some good on-ball defenders, and I think Trent Pierce did not have a great game. I don't really think he's completely at fault for the auto switching.
No,
this is more of a thing that Missouri has started to do more and more on a lot of ball screens. We've talked about the advantages that they had in the Georgia game where they went away from the auto switches and they started blitzing ball screens and what that did. Blitzing is one of those things. I've always been a fan of blitzing ball screens because you're going to push the offense back away from the basket and you're going to make ball handlers uncomfortable. If they're able to get the ball out of the trap, now you're putting most likely big men in a ball handling position farther away from the basket. And it's just Matt, do you want Josh Gray handling the ball and dribbling the ball at the 3-point line?
God, no.
No, you don't. And most coaches don't because that's not what a lot of bigs are accustomed to. And so, Missouri has this roster of, a lot of guys who are good defenders, and it hasn't always added up to being a good defense. They're good at taking the ball away. Their steal rate's really high.
Yep.
Their backline rotations are a little messy. They don't always protect the rim very well. And one of the things that you can help overcome some of those things is blitzing ball handlers when there's a ball screen. It's like, and I don't, I'm not trying to like educate. Obviously, this is a competent coaching staff. They've taken a team that everybody thought was going to be the 11th, best team in the SEC. They're 5th right now. If they win their next 2 games, they'll be 12-6 in the toughest league in college basketball history, potentially. So like they're all that stuff, but
the margins
driving me crazy. Yeah, it's driving me crazy that we're doing all these auto switches when you have capable defenders and you have guys who are good at pressure. Like go let them play more.
There's like, I feel like in a lot of ways, a lot of coaches take kind of the same tack as Bill Self, or had taken it for kind of the same tack as Bill Self, which is you don't switch anything unless it's a scramble or it's late clock. Like, and at that point, it's just like a fire alarm. We just need to keep somebody in front of the ball. We're going to switch it. And it's like 10 seconds or less, late clock, we're going to do it. The thing that Missouri has is that most of the time in the auto switches, you can play through. Like if you watch the auto switch, like the clip we showed there, there's a gap that the guy can go through. Like a lot of modern defenses have like tried to find the difference between over and playing under ball screen. So they'll just have they'll have the guy that tags the roller sit low and create a gap for the ball handler's guy to come through, and they call it through coverage. You could have run through coverage on a lot of different stuff on Saturday. And now Mark's not going to be forcing heavy ball handler pressure like a blitz, but it's not going to let Hoggard get that angle to attack. And it's not going to let the big kind of almost Gortat or almost block Pierce off. Yeah. Because I think, what big is that? Is that McLaughlin that was setting the screen, and he almost sort of just walks. He's not really rolling. He's just sort of walking Trent away to create an angle. That was Nickel. Yeah. So if you play through and you keep at least Mark on the ball through there, it doesn't really matter what Nickel's doing down below it. So there's some stuff you could do even if you don't want to be as aggressive with blitzes. But the big thing is that even what we saw on Saturday was just a different variation of what happens. Like Georgia would start rolling guys into post pins. We saw that. Arkansas would kind of do the same thing. Arkansas ran a little bit different kind of ball screen stuff, but they were getting kind of like delayed kind of post ups. But Georgia and Arkansas have gone at it. Bama went at it a little bit. Vandy's gone at it now. I think Watkins is running numbers on it, and they're pretty grisly about what happens when Missouri automatically switches ball screens. So the good news is, if you are frustrated coming out of the Vandy game, is this is an acute problem. Like you would rather have this issue than like what we saw a couple years ago, which is that was an undersized team where no matter what you did in ball screen coverage, you couldn't fix Nick Honor or Sean East being undersized. And you couldn't fix Noah Carter being a 6'6" center. You just couldn't fix those problems. This is a problem you can fix by saying, okay, we're just not going to do automatic switching as much. We're going to change our pick and roll coverage. We're going to go back to our base coverage, which is playing a 5-man at the level of the screen. Like, so that's the silver lining here, is this staff could sit down today or tomorrow and be like, oh yeah, this isn't good. Let's go back to doing what we were doing the previous 10 games in SEC play, and you can clean it up. That's the hope. But so that's what I would leave you with coming out of this, is it was frustrating. There were some mistakes that happened, but they're correctable mistakes, which is what you want. And honestly, there are things you'd rather be talking about this time of year. It would be the really pedantic crap of, we don't like automatic ball screen switches. There are worse problems you could be discussing on March 3rd.
They're 12th in KenPom still. Like, this is...
Right. Like, that's the thing. The margins we're talking about here if you're listening, if you're watching this, we realize that this is really nerdy, really myopic, almost borderline OCD. But if you're talking about a team where you think they've got the potential to get to a Sweet 16 or an Elite Eight, these are the kinds of decisions that influence ball games. And so that's where you're at right now.
If Missouri was better in ball screen coverages, if they were a little tighter on the defensive end, then Vanderbilt doesn't have a shot to win the game. Like, regardless, like the reason that Vanderbilt was in the game, because Missouri was scoring at will, the reason Vanderbilt was in the game is because they could not get a stop. Vandy scored. Hold on, I just had it up.
Are you putting the 2-point chart up?
Huh?
Put the 2-point chart up, because that's the fun one where you just see all the 2-point ones they get.
Well, I posted that. I was just going to pull up the stat broadcast.
That's what I was going to say.
But no, they scored. It was over 50 points in the second half. Their 2-point field goal makes 61.9, 62% basically. Like,
yep.
Just like guys, and like, and this is what we were talking about like before we came. Like, they're so good on offense. That Missouri is so good offensively that if Caleb Grill is making threes, then like you don't really have a whole lot of chance.
The math doesn't add up.
Right.
The math
to keep up with it. All they have to do is get a little better defensively. And this is like realistically, like I'm not even BSing. This is a team that has enough offensively that if they get it right defensively, they can make a Final Four. Like, they are that good on offense, but you have to be better defensively. Like Alabama made it last year with an elite offense and a pretty poor defense, but they fixed some things. Well, they got lucky against North Carolina. We've been over that. But they did fix some things defensively, and they were better defensively, which is how they got to a Final Four. And that's the difference.
This is the other way to look at this is if you break down shots by location on the floor, Missouri was +7 at the line, +3 from 3-point range. That's +10. In terms of mid-range twos, which are hyper variable, that is always weird what happens game to game. It's almost as variable as 3-point percentage. So I don't really put any stock in it. Vandy was +10 in middies. That happens. Vanderbilt was +4 at the rim. That's your ball game. Vanderbilt was +4 at the rim. Missouri was great offensively all night, and Vanderbilt outscored them by 4 at the rim.
Here, so this is stat broadcast. So these are twos only.
Not a lot of X's there.
You can see the timestamp at 1946. So they made their first 2-pointer. They missed 4 twos in the entire second half. Like,
that's pretty good.
And look, like, again, Missouri's offense was like doing great things. They were getting to the free throw line. They made their threes. They were good enough inside the arc. And then they just get obliterated inside the arc against the Commodores. And so like this, and a lot of it comes down to like, okay, what are the things that we're doing defensively? Layup, jumper, layup, jumper, layup, jumper. layup, jumper. Like, at some point you've got to figure out how to
turn the
stops. Yeah, you got and really, like, they went through a stretch there that I really thought but it was they were getting steals. They weren't getting stops.
Down the stretch.
So, I mean, they were getting stops, but it was steals. And they had a couple steals in a row, and I'm just like, that's it. That's what they needed. They just needed to stop the water for Vandy a little bit. They got up, and then the rest of the second half happened. So let's talk about Oklahoma.
Oh man, poor Porter.
You got anything like you really want to add here? Like
No.
they've been close. So since we last saw them, they lost
the tagline for the port.
Yeah, they lost by 3 at home to LSU. That was the one that I really sort of set the alarm bells off. Lost by 22 to Florida at Florida. They did beat Mississippi State at home. Hey, they got one. They lost a 1-point game to Kentucky, and then they lost that was a home game. Then they lost 3-point to Ole Miss on the road. I really thought that they should have won that Kentucky game. Otega Owe was the only guy that mattered for Kentucky in the last 10 minutes. So yeah, they're sitting at 4-12. Even if they win their last 2, I really have a hard time imagining that the committee is going to be letting somebody at 6-12 in, especially if Missouri beats them, they're absolutely cooked because they will have had essentially one decent win. They did blow out Vanderbilt. But nobody ranked inside the top 30. Mississippi State is 30th. There's not a lot of room for them. They have to beat Missouri, and I guess maybe this is where you're a little cautious. They have to beat Missouri to even have a thought of being an NCAA tournament team. If they don't beat Missouri, I think it's over.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pulling up their team sheet right now just to sort of have a good reference point here. I mean, they have 3 fantastic non-conference wins. You can't debate that. I mean, the Arizona win has aged beautifully. The Louisville win has aged great. Michigan has aged well. So there's no doubt they've got 3 really good quad 1A wins from non-con. But still, we're looking at a team that's 5-10 in quad 1. If you toss in their quad 2, they're 7-11 in quads 1 and 2, which I guess is good. There are teams that are probably going to have worse ones, but the thing that's going to kill them is, their resume-based metrics are 50, 47, 42. That's out territory. They are absolutely, in terms of the predictive metrics, which are, what we use to predict games here. So that's forward-looking. Resume metrics are backward-looking. That's probably the best way to think about it. So the committee tends to look a lot. It depends on someone's resume to resume, year to year. But your resume, your quad 1 wins are kind of like, hey, here are our best wins, and your predictive metrics kind of tell you how a team is playing at the time. So they're 52nd in BPI, which is broken. I think they're just going to chuck BPI. But even if you did that, they're 46th in KenPom and 58th in Torvik. Wins above bubble. So they are cooked if they lose. Absolutely cooked. They will, because if they lose to Missouri, it will add another dip to their metrics. It's going to be another loss in quad 1. They're going to be at 5. They can't win any more than 5 SEC games. There's just not a lot there. The thing that's going to hurt them too is they've got 7 quad 4 wins. It's 3 quad 1A wins, 7 quad 4 wins, and then 5 in quads 2 and 3, which don't really even matter for the discussion here. So the question the tournament committee would have to ask is, do we feel comfortable putting a team that went 5-10 in quad 1, went 5-13 in league play, and played the number
KenPom's got them at 3-13 for the non-con.
Yeah, the number 3-13 non-con schedule. 3 good wins are not, and those wins aren't even really all that. They're really good, but they're not elite anymore. So for Missouri, this is their chance to put, for Oklahoma, I should say, this is their last stand. This really is it, because Texas is probably close to the wrong side of the bubble. I don't know if a Texas win necessarily helps them all that much, aside from just getting to 6 if they need it.
I think, but Texas if Missouri beat the wrong side of the bubble too,
yeah. So you're looking at 2 teams that are trending wrong there. They need a win on Wednesday. Absolutely need a win.
If Texas wins its last 2 games, I think they probably have a shot. They've got they've got MSU on the road and Oklahoma at home. So that could put them back on the right side of the bubble. But even if Oklahoma wins their last 2 games, and again, like beating Missouri, Mizzou, they are coming off a loss. I just don't think Oklahoma matches up well with them.
The only variable that
I'm trying to be I'm trying to be a little bit neutral and like looking at it. It is only a projected 3-point win.
Fears is playing better than he was coming into Columbia. That's big. He's been on a little bit of a roll lately. And if Fears is playing well, the rest of that, if Fears and Moore are playing well, that can ease some things for them. He's looked good in some games against quality competition recently. So and Fears is a guy who absolutely needs to live in pick and rolls. And if you are automatic switching and you're having some issues in your pick and roll defense, on paper, this should be a Missouri win. But I think if you look at the way that Oklahoma is entering this game, if you look at the way Fears is playing, and if you look at the issues that Missouri's had, Missouri also struggled on the glass early in that game. Struggled pick and roll coverages. Like, they out-talented Oklahoma in that game. But when you watch that game, Missouri was not dominant against Oklahoma. There were some stretches where you kind of thought Missouri played a little bit lackadaisical in that game against Oklahoma in the first meeting. So there's some faint echoes of what we saw in Vandy all the way back in the home win over Oklahoma. Like I said about Vandy, it's tough to go on this. It's tough to win 2 games. Tough to sweep a series anyway. Even tougher this year with the depth of the league. So take nothing for granted. This is a game. If you're Missouri, though, if you harbor any aspirations of getting to the number 4 seed line, if you harbor any aspirations of maybe getting some help from somebody and taking out Tennessee to give you a double bye, there's a result you need. You need the same sense of urgency that Oklahoma has here, which is, if we want to give ourselves the best path, we're in the tournament. We're fine going to Tennessee. We're not going to play for a day in Nashville. We have to give ourselves the best path, the most optimal path to get where we want to go. It means beating a team like Oklahoma on its home floor. That's what the mentality has to be going into that ball game.
And then they wrap it all up with Kentucky, who's a bit of a mess with their injuries, but still calling them competent is probably a little unfair. They're a quality basketball team. Man, they don't handle the ball well.
Well, they didn't recruit a point guard, and then all their combo guards got hurt. So that's. I'm not going to say that's a scheme problem. That's a dudes got hurt problem.
Yeah, Lamont Butler is back playing, but he's been dealing with a shoulder issue and hasn't really looked great. They got smoked a bit at home against Auburn. They did narrowly beat Oklahoma. Otega Owe is challenging to defend. Amari Williams has become even better than I thought he would be.
We stand for Amari.
I thought
we love
him coming up. He was going to be a really good defensive guy. I did not really see him being like the point center that he's become.
Oh, he flashed it at Drexel. You weren't deep in the clips like Watkins and I were. Watkins and I love that dude. We loved that dude last spring. And I'm so sad to see him in a Kentucky uniform.
They've got Andrew Carr, who's transferred from Wake, I would say he's been a little bit of a disappointment. He's also kind of been banged up.
Yeah.
Kobe Brea has lived up to his billing of being an elite 3-point shooter. Not much else. Ainsley Almanor comes off the bench to also shoot the ball well. He's in that Tamar Bates range. He's in the 50, 40, 90 club. Only Ainsley really doesn't take twos. He's 17 of 21 on the year. 35 of 81 from 3-point range.
Our guy plays 16% of minutes on 11% usage.
Yeah.
So the volume here is
not quite the same as Tamar.
Not quite the same as Tamar.
Kirk Risa has not played since the
he broke his foot in late. Yeah, he broke his foot late in non-con. I mean, losing Jackson Robinson really, I think, threw this rotation out of kilter, because I think I pointed out to you guys before we came on here that, like, if you consider their core group of Oea, Butler, Williams, and Carr, that's the four guys you consider, and that is who it is based on minutes and usage. That group of four guys is just 27 of 87 from three-point range in SEC play. That's 31%. What did Mark Pope build this roster to do?
Shoot.
Bang in threes. His one guy that makes threes is Kobe Brea. But when Kobe Brea plays, Kentucky is 14.9 points per 100 possessions worse on defense. So they got Lamont Butler back, and he's really good. But playing Kobe alongside him essentially wipes that out. But you have to play Kobe because then you don't have shooting otherwise. So they've got a spot where they don't really, like, I looked at their probable starting lineup, and it is minus 3.9 for a net rating. It is underwater in terms of efficiency. That's a problem. They're also having to pump over the last month nearly 28% of possessions through Oea. That's not what Mark envisioned doing. He thought he was going to have depth spread across his rotation, and guys were going to be able to shoot a lot. We were going to spread production. Well, now he's playing basically what? Probably 6-7 deep. I mean, the freshmen play sporadically.
Yeah, he's used Travis Perry really to kind of get, rest and breathers, for anyone. Noah
we'll spell Oea a little bit.
Yeah, he'll come in. He gets immediately attacked defensively.
Yeah.
Like the second, when really, like, Perry is in a similar boat, that the second those guys kind of come in,
it's ugly.
You could go back and like watch the Oklahoma game just to see exactly what Oklahoma had planned for them. And it's just like, as soon as those guys were in the game, and they don't really have options, like they have to play those guys.
Yeah, they have to.
Perry's got some moxie to him. So he's he's a guy that we're familiar with because, Missouri recruited him a little bit. And,
all-time leading scorer in Kentucky high school basketball. Really, 2 inches taller. He's probably a more elite recruit that can shoot the heck out of the basketball, but he's just getting attacked defensively, which was always the thing coming up in high school. You're like, what happens if you put him in a ball screen in college? What's going to happen?
Yeah, and
go watch the Oklahoma game to see what happens.
He doesn't have great size. He's not a plus athlete. He's a skill guy, and I think he's a guy who's going to be able to help them for the next 3+ years now. But if you're building out a starting lineup or a 7-8 man rotation with him as a freshman in it, like you're definitely thin. They are 15th in the conference for defensive efficiency. They don't force turnovers. They give up a lot at the rim.
Both these teams give up a lot at the rim.
It's interesting too, because like Kentucky, they've got good size. They're similar to Missouri in that they have good size. They got Brandon Garrison. Mario Williams is got very long arms. Andrew Carr's got good size. They just doesn't work
because it starts with keeping. What do we say about good rim defense? Starts with keeping the ball in front.
Mm-hmm.
And not putting stress on your backside rotations, not putting stress on your help defenders. Like, it's different if you were funneling drivers to those guys. Then I think they'd be swatting the crap out of the ball, but they're not. And because of how teams want to play and put them in space, you can pull them out a little bit. So I think and you've had to almost kind of play in drop coverage a little bit more with Amari and kind of Brandon, because if you go to any depth pieces, guess what's going to happen? You need to contain those dribblers or it's going to be bad. So I think part of it is a structural thing. I think if Lamont and Butler were healthy and able to kind of play at the level of physicality that he wants as an on-ball defender, I think that would change things. But any bump to that shoulder might put him back on the bench. So he has to play a little bit less aggressively and assertively at the point of attack. But this game to me is really going to come down to who can win at the rim, who's able to deter, who's able to get there. The shooting numbers, if you look at them in terms of percentage from 3-point range, these two teams are basically equal. If you look at the amount of points that these teams need from the 3-point range, from behind the 3-point arc, it's basically 35% for both of them. Missouri forces more turnovers. Kentucky's a little bit better at protecting the rim in terms of blocks. Who wins 2-point defense? Who wins inside the paint and around the restricted area, to me, is who's going to win this basketball game. You like Missouri's depth in this one. You like the idea that they can maybe get some turnovers and get in transition. You like the idea that they can maybe exploit that second unit for Kentucky a little bit. But we'll see. We'll see, what Missouri's able to do, because this is a team in Kentucky that's still, even with all the injuries, since January 28th, is still a top 20 offense in the country. They can still score the basketball even if they're hurt. For them, it's stops. And if they get enough stops, they can win this game. So going to be really, really intriguing to see kind of what Kentucky's rotation looks like and how they approach this game.
Well, I think with that, we're going to get out of here. Last week, the regular season, Missouri is currently kind of bordering the 4 and the 5 seed line in the NCAA tournament. They're 12th in KenPom.
15th in the AP poll.
It's been a bumpy couple weeks, but it's also a really tough league, and winning on the road is hard. And I hope that they can kind of get some things figured out, because I do think that this team has it in them to make a run in March. It is looking like they're going to be provided they can at least get one more win, probably a 5 seed in the SEC tournament. So bookmark. I want to say it's going to be about 2:30 on Thursday is what the schedule looks like. But we'll be back next Monday to kind of preview the SEC tournament. Hopefully Missouri comes out of this week with 2 weeks, so a little bit of wind at their back, and can pick up another couple quad 1 wins in the tournament before they go seeding. Yeah,
it's that fantastic time, and soon we'll have excuses to dodge work so we can watch things like the ASUN quarterfinals. My favorite time of the year. Work hard from 8 until noon, and then take an hour and a half lunch and watch the ASUN, watch the SoCon. The Sun Belt bracket is really just a flying V formation this year, so I'm going to enjoy some of that. Wild time. What else do you expect in Pensacola? What else do you expect in the Redneck Riviera?
So, and we might see about getting a special guest next week. So stay tuned for that. We will see you then. So thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we will talk to you next Monday. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.